What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project X Talk Extra, your weekly news podcast supplement from Project X Talk. Here, we talk about news, games, movies, anything that didn't quite make the main show. This episode, obviously, since you clicked on it, is our Halo, the series episode number 4 review. Full spoilers, just in case you were wondering. So if you
Yep.
haven't watched the episode, please click off and come back unless you want to be spoiled. If you don't care about that, then you can keep watching. But just fair warning. My name's Kevin, aka the Muffin Mon. I am your host, and I am joined by that crazy ass Mustang in the background.
Did you hear it again?
Yeah.
This is crazy. What's with these people in the morning? Come on.
Ethan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Kevin. I'm ready to talk about some Halo because I think you and me might disagree a little bit on this episode.
I think we might. Before
might.
we get into the actual discussion, remember, guys, to like, share, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're over on audio platforms, please drop us a rating or review if you haven't. We do appreciate it. We're working hard to bring you content every week, most weekdays, sometimes weekends. We're doing our best to please you and let us know your thoughts, what we can do better, if anything. And if you want it early, head on over to patreon.com/projectxtalk. But Ethan, no more delays. I want to get into it. You weren't here last week. I talked about episode 3 with Tom. We thought it was a fine episode. It was all right. It wasn't, that was our standing. So I know you wanted to give your little impressions of episode 3 before we get into episode 4.
Yeah, real quick, I got some bullet points here from episode 3 that I wanted to get off my chest. First of all, obviously, we figured out how the Covenant got the woman from that garbage planet, from the waste planet or whatever. So my crazy theory of her and John B. I mean, I guess it could still be the case. It's still possible, but it's looking less and less likely. So she was kidnapped by the Covenant. That was cool to see. The woman admiral that's working with Halsey, she actually isn't a spineless jellyfish. She's starting to work behind her back. So I think that was an interesting little character switch right there to show that she wasn't as spineless as we thought, and she was actually being very methodical. Let's see. Halsey's assistant, absolutely hate him now. Every time I see him, he's creeped me the fuck out.
Like, he's creepy.
Yeah, like I don't know why they did that with the character, because now it's just like it's creepy every time I see him, and it does. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm starting to love the relationship between John and Cortana, how that started off, how absolutely against the idea he was, and he started warming up to her. Let's see. When that Covenant Corvette came out of slip space, when the woman was trying to trick the UNSC guys to bring her on board, at first I started freaking out because I thought they were introducing the Flood. Because they said a derelict Covenant. I know. Well, not even before the Hunters, just the fact that it was a derelict Covenant ship and there was no life signs. I'm like, oh my God, the Flood is here. But no, they teased me with that. It was interesting to see the Hunters get revealed with the worm creatures. And then during episode 3, I had completely lost interest in the Quan Ha story. I have it written right here. Lost interest in Quan Ha's story. Like, I did not care whatsoever about Quan Ha in episode 3. But something happened in episode 4 that reinvigorated my interest, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
All right. So we can get into episode 4. And to be honest, even though I watched it yesterday, my overall thoughts on this episode, this was undoubtedly the worst episode of the entire series for me. This was so boring. This was painful at points to get through. And not even just one storyline. Every storyline, I was sitting there cringing and like, what is going on? What am I watching right now? I do not understand how we're 4 episodes in and we've had 15 minutes worth of fighting.
You see, that's interesting because that's how I feel about episode 3. Episode 3 for me was a slog to get through. Like, especially absolutely losing interest in the Quan Ha story. Every time she came on the screen, I was just like, I don't care anymore. And I would just tune it out. Episode 4 actually kept me pretty engaged with some of these storylines and getting more of the backstory of both Master Chief and now this new renewed interest in the Quan Ha.
So we can dive into it. I'm struggling to remember how the episode began. Do you remember what started? Because I'm gonna be real with you. All I can picture in my brain is Master Chief going to his home planet.
Yep.
I know he was on the spacecraft. Cortana was like he was feeling all anxious, and Cortana's like, your heart rate's elevated. He's like, is this what
Right.
anxiety feels like? And Halsey and her creepy little assistant, who he's literally like a snake man.
I don't like him at all.
Yeah, they're like, what if he remembers? Oh no, what are we gonna do? And then they get to the John's home planet, and they pull up in a vehicle. It's not a warthog. It's what's the other one called?
Razorback.
Razorback. Yeah, they pull up in a Razorback, which was fine. I'm dope. I'm good with
Pretty
that.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And John's like, it was right, and they like get more flashbacks of his memories. It's like, all right, we're gonna dig here, and they find some drawings, and then they go inside his house. And this, if we just want to follow this storyline, then we can go to the other ones.
Yeah.
This is my main issue right here with this storyline. We spent the entire episode with Master Chief getting some nonsense. I can reconstruct the building from this destroyed like visual stimuli, and somehow there's this
that was Cortana, right?
I know, but it's triggering all the memories, and he's like,
right.
I'm like, okay, this is like the brain dance from Cyberpunk right now.
Yeah,
and I hate it. Oh my God. It's just, we spent way too long, and all we found out was like, oh, Halsey was there when he was a kid. So like he knows she's been lying to him, and he's a little upset about that, but not enough upset to like talk to her about it or do anything. He's just like, we're going to keep going to find the artifact.
The whole sequence of Master Chief going through those memories could have just been one scene.
One scene.
He could have dug up the pictures, gone in the house, looked around, got the stuff reconstructed by Cortana, got memories triggered, and then left. And then the next scene could have been them finding the keystone. Like, that's all they had to do.
Instead, we spent 30 minutes on it of him just staring off into space, and then flashback, staring, flashback, staring. Like, oh my
Which
God.
In terms of story progression, I really liked what progressed during those scenes. But you're right. It was too slow. It should have been sped up a little bit. It was getting a little old near the end. But it was interesting to see him realize Dr. Halsey was with him when he was a kid. It was interesting to see them find the keystone. And I liked seeing that character development by Master Chief.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. I like the story, but I don't like the way they're telling me the story. It's too methodical, too slow. We need to get going. And a big issue I have is, what is the point in your suit, Master Chief? Please tell me, because we are 4 hours into this, and you have done nothing in it except the first 15 minutes. You have not fought anyone. All you do is take your helmet off, do the Halo Infinite shot with it by your side, and then put it back on to drive your Razorback, and then immediately take it back off. What is happening in the show?
I am so surprised of the lack of action. I really, really am. Like, I wasn't expecting it to just be a gore fest by any means. I was hoping there was going to be some deep storytelling in this show, obviously. But the sheer lack of action, every episode, I'm like, they've got to do an action sequence this time. Like, they got to do it. They haven't done one since episode 1. And each week, it's just like, what are they doing? Like, are the Covenant even trying? I mean, I guess we did get an action sequence in episode 4, or episode 3, with the woman coming with the hunters and fighting all the guys. But I mean, it wasn't much of a fight. It was just a badass shot of her walking through a tunnel of worms, and they were all eating the faces of the soldiers. So
yeah, so Master Chief's little plot here ends with him finding the second Forerunner artifact, and then Halsey like smiling behind him as he goes to touch it, which
evil woman.
Yeah. So then I want to move to there's 3 storylines in this episode. We got Master Chief's. I'll go to the second one, which I think is awful, and that is the female Spartan.
Oh, you said it. Damn it. I like that whole sequence. That was my favorite part of this episode.
Absolutely terrible.
All right.
Please, tell me why you like it. Tell me why you like it, then I will.
I absolutely loved the contrast between the 2 Spartans that still had their what is it, like emotional dampeners or something in their spine.
Yeah, the hormone suppressant.
And the female Spartan that dug it out of her. when they were talking to Keys. The whole kind of interaction between the 3 Spartans and Keys, I absolutely loved, because you see her with this dyed hair. She's a little rebellious. She's walking around actually acting like a human, and her 2 basically robotic buddies are like backing her up. It was just awesome back and forth banter. It was really interesting to see Keys interact with the Silver team. So I actually really liked it. And it also shows that, it kind of opens something up. I don't know if she's going to be good or bad now, because she seems a little obsessive with Master Chief. I mean, am I wrong to think that?
No, so I think I brought that up last week when we were talking about episode 3. I was like, she's like always staring at him and
Yeah.
stalking him in the shadows. That's how she saw like him dig the suppressant out. So then she went and did that this episode. She took her hormone little thing out of her back, but she gets caught. And this is one of my. She gets caught, and the other Spartan is like, "You all right?" And she goes, "Yeah." Okay, and then just walks away. She has
Well,
a
that makes
hole in
sense.
her back.
I mean, the other Spartan had to have known and just didn't say anything. Because, I mean, look what Master Chief did, and they still said they were going to kill Marines to get to him. Like that team is like ride or die together. They don't care. They're gonna support each other no matter what. So that makes sense to me.
It's so strange. I just found it so strange. And then the actual scenes when they're interacting with Miranda, I did find some humor in the
Yeah.
fact that she was now like acting a little weird compared to them. So
Yeah.
like that interaction, I agree with you. I didn't really have that much of an issue with. What I do have an issue with is then they start saying some covenant words,
Yep.
and
Kelly.
yeah, saying Healy, and they were like, Miranda's like, "Oh my god, you guys know the language before," and just the way they get there, they're like, "Yeah, they say it to us before we kill them." I was like, "This is the stupidest thing I've heard." Like, who wrote this?
It
This
was
is
a little
how
cheesy and
yeah,
goofy,
this
wasn't
is
it?
how Miranda's gonna figure out the language, and then they're just like, "What other
Right.
words? What other words do you hear when you're slaughtering the Covenant?" You know what I'd like to see? Them slaughtering the Covenant.
Yeah, that would be fun, wouldn't
Yeah.
it? Silver Team hasn't left Reach since they were on Madrigal, or since they left Madrigal. All
Mhm.
we've seen them on is Reach just sitting there greasing their guns and like walking around with armor talking to people all tough. That's the only thing they've done. And I remember saying, I think it was either episode 1 or 2 review, is that I want to see more Silver Team. I want to see them get into action. I want to see how they work on the battlefield. And I've been disappointed so far.
Mhm. Yeah, no. So my other big issue with this, then they go on a story about like Halsey because Miranda's still very much like
Right.
I don't like my mom. She sucks. And they were like, Dr. Halsey gave us all pets, and then we had to
Oh
fight each
no.
other, and the losers had to kill their pets. And he was like, I got a pig, I got a dog,
Pig named Ivan the
yeah,
Terrible.
yeah, Ivan. And they're like, oh, so you got to keep Ivan. He's like, no, after you win, Dr. Halsey killed the pig anyway. And I was like, they're literally just trying to make Halsey Hitler. Like
Yeah,
they want you to be like, Halsey is Hitler.
you can see how uncomfortable Miranda was. She's like, "Oh my
Yes.
god, this is awful." But I mean, I think that's how you train Spartans, I guess.
So then after the other two Spartans leave, and it's just what's her name? Is it Key? What's her name? Do you
Who?
remember the female Spartan? Do you remember her
I don't
name?
know any of their names.
Oh,
I
I
just know them
can't.
as Silver Team.
The problem is they say them, and I just don't care enough about them to remember. So
Yeah.
the female Spartan who took out her inhibitor, she's
Yep.
sitting there with Miranda decoding some words, and they find one, and it's like sacred ring. And then she's like,
Hmm.
"Do you have the footage from when I found that with Master Chief?" And then she like freeze frames it
Yeah.
perfectly, first time. And it's like, it's a ring, Halo. And there's like, what? Where did
Yeah.
you get the Halo from? Like you're barely translating sacred ring. When I
Right.
hear sacred ring, I don't immediately go Halo. That makes sense.
Halo.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't
I
know.
bet that's what they're talking about.
But again, these people are way smarter than us. So it could just be, that she's a scientist and she's a Spartan. I don't know.
Are they though? Because listening to this writing, I'm like, this is the stupidest thing
Well,
I've
as
ever
far
heard.
as I know, the Covenant don't call them Halo rings, right? They don't say Halo about
No,
them. That's
which
the UNSC's term for them.
yes, but that's my point. Why the hell is this Spartan saying like Master Chief should they discovered their Halo rings, like
Right.
Master Chief does.
Yeah.
Not this random person translating some language she's barely
Well,
piecing together with some broken dialect.
I don't know what they're doing with it. I mean, I'm hoping Master Chief becomes more involved in the grand storyline more. Like he's just kind of being a puppet right now, walking around looking at visions and stuff like that. He's just so out of it. I feel
Uh,
like, yeah, he's finding the keystone and stuff like that, but he's just kind of being puppeted by Dr. Halsey and her weird little assistant.
I really like the actor that plays Master Chief.
Yes, I
I
do
think
too.
his performance is good for like what
Incredible.
he's being told to do. But this isn't Master Chief. Like he's not doing anything. Like this could be some
Right.
random person. This has nothing to do with anything right now. Like
Yeah.
he's just off. But my last big issue with this Miranda and female Spartan scene is then they start like flirting and am I the
Oh
only
yeah, it was
and then
I picked up a little bit on it and I
I was
thought about it.
like
I'm like they're not going to do
I
that,
was
but
like, I
we'll
swear to
see.
God, if she leans in and kisses Miranda right now, like, not that there's anything wrong with like a gay relationship,
Yeah, but it
but
would
it
just
just
be
seems
so out of the blue.
so, yes, exactly. So, like, you literally first time you ever talk to this woman, and now you're
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna hook up with this female Spartan for no
Yeah.
reason.
In the middle of my scientific workshop in a military installation.
Yeah, it definitely felt like they were trying to do that, and maybe they will down the line, but like
Hmm.
I don't. It just seems
I mean,
very
they made
forced to
that
me.
eye contact that was very sensual, and then heard Miranda go, "You acting very strange, petty officer." Like
Hmm.
getting it professional again, saying the rank, and then she just kind of backed up, "Ma'am." Like so, Miranda's the one that kind of cut it off, said, "We're not doing this." So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I listen. All I know is I could see her like Silver Team's going off to fight some war, and Miranda's like, I gotta give her a
Oh no,
romantic kiss before she leaves, or
it's gonna.
some silly like
Please don't.
stuff we don't need in the show.
I want to
And
see Master Chief and Silver Team marching to a ship to go kill Covenant. I don't want to see any of this stuff, any of this romance, any of this extra crap. Can I just get some action out of these guys?
yeah, and I get they're trying to have something for everyone, but it just felt forced. If it was more
Yeah,
of a natural progression, then I wouldn't mind it so much. But it literally did feel like let's put some romantic music in the background and try to tell everyone, hey, they're gonna like each other now
right.
for no real reason. And listen, Ethan, I don't know if you heard us last week, but we were very happy because my Ty Guy Travis, who's on Bitcast,
Mhm.
he had a theory that Master Chief, they were going to give Cortana the female human body and then they were going to bang.
Oh no, that's a
And
bad
then
take.
they killed the female they killed the clone and I'm like, thank God they're not doing that.
That would have been a bad take. I don't like that.
But it seemed possible at the time though, right? You know,
Yeah,
like just
that whole sequence with Cortana was just really
yeah,
creepy.
it's creepy. We
The
talked about
whole thing was creepy.
Tom and
It
I
made me
talked about it
uncomfy.
last, like super creepy.
Yeah.
And then Miranda gives a little like monologue to end the episode about how Dr. Halsey doesn't like when her projects don't like obey her and do what she wants,
Right.
and then she'll like get rid of them, kind of alluding like, is she gonna
Ugh.
kill the Spartan now that she took out her thing, or
Yeah.
like maybe get rid of Master Chief because then it went to her like devilish
Yeah.
smile.
What did they say? Dr. Halsey doesn't tolerate glitches. Isn't
Mm-hmm.
that what they said? Because
Mm,
somebody made the mention, like, could it just be a glitch with Master Chief? Dr.
yeah.
Halsey doesn't tolerate glitches. That was good. That was really ominous. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, what is gonna? There's no way Halsey's gonna kill Master Chief.
No, and right now, Dr. Halsey is the bad guy of this series.
I
When
feel like it.
isn't it supposed to be the Covenant and this human the what's her name, I don't remember, the trash person human Covenant,
Trash person. I don't know
and
her name either. I don't think they've said her name yet, have they?
I can't remember. There's a bunch of weird characters in here. The only ones
Yeah.
I really care about are the ones from the game. Um, but speaking of awful characters,
Oh,
Quan
Okay, here's
That
where we're
was
gonna get into some differences here.
this was the majority of the episode. Her storyline took up the
Mhm.
majority of screen time. Her and Soren landed on
Yep.
Madrigal, and she was keeping a low profile. And she's like, I gotta find my dad's generals, the rebels, and we can
Yep.
lead a rebellion.
Mhm.
Um, and it didn't go so well because
No.
everyone she found was like, I can't help you. All the generals are dead. They've been
They screwed her
executed.
over.
And she's a wanted criminal. And then, do you remember what's the UNSC Kirscher? Is that his
Uh,
name?
no, it begins with a V, the Nazi guy. He's literally an
Venture.
Venture. Yeah, I think it's Venture. He's definitely like a Gestapo type character. It's really, really kind of cheesy.
He is the worst character. That scene where he was naked, and they've been
It
doing
was
this.
such a dumb scene. They're showing a lot of butt cheeks. The last
Yeah,
two episodes.
last two episodes, butt cheeks galore.
Yes,
He
it is.
was literally standing naked in some sort of Roman bath.
That was
Like,
cool though. I like that bath. I want it in my
well,
house.
you ever seen Spartacus? That's straight out of
Yeah,
Spartacus. Yeah,
yeah,
that was straight
absolutely.
out. He's smoking a cigar, and then he's just telling a girl, some woman that we've never seen before, I need you to
Yep.
go execute this girl, take care of all my problems. But he's coming off as the most over the top, cartoony
Just a
villain.
super villain. Yeah.
I need you to do this for me.
Takes a
Like,
puff of cigar.
it was
It
awful.
was funny. Come on. It was goofy as hell. Yeah, he's pretty bad. I can't defend that.
No, I just that really I almost turned the episode. I was like, what am I watching? What are we
Yeah,
doing here?
he's definitely one of the most cartoony supervillains. It's clearly like supposed to evoke imagery of Nazi Germany with him in the black trench coats with the little eyeglasses, like Himmler, all this stuff. So it is cheesy. It's kind of cheap. But getting into the story about Quan Ha, initially, of course, coming off of episode 3, absolutely no interest. I was like, whatever, Soren will get her there. And I remember you messaged me in Discord like, "Oh, you'll like this episode," because I said that I didn't like the Quan Ha story in episode 3. And the first thing I thought is, did they kill her? Is it over? Like, are we just
I
gonna ignore it?
wish.
But no, in terms of the story, it actually got me back into it. The vast majority of it I didn't care for, just because it was her running around finding old friends and then those friends going, "You shouldn't be here. Go away. It's too dangerous here for you." That was 75% of her story this episode. But I liked the character development from Soren. I always like those characters that, they act like they're tough guys and then they're going to turn around and do the right thing. So seeing him come back for her when she was in that kind of trouble spot so that he could help her get, I'm assuming he's going to help her get to the mystics that they're talking about. She gets told that her father was told something by these mystics out in the desert, and that he was living a lie and he lied to her. It's all very mysterious. I'm not sure what's going on, and the reason why it's kind of getting me back into it is because I think this is going to reattach her into the main storyline between Master Chief, the Covenant, the Keystones. I don't think those two are done yet with their interactions. I don't think they're just going to be doing two separate storylines up until the end. So I'm thinking these mystics at some point are going to tell her something that's going to mess her up like it messed her father up. And it's going to be something to do with the Covenant and something to do with this main storyline with Master Chief. So that's the only reason why I'm reinterested. Other than that, action sequences were okay. The whole thing was just kind of boring throughout the episode.
Yeah, the assassin that the stand-in Hitler cartoon character hired
Yeah.
went and started slaughtering all the guards to get to Quan Ha, and then
Yeah.
cut her aunt's throat in front of her, which was okay. Yeah,
Pretty
okay.
brutal.
I
Yeah.
wish she had done it to Quan Ha, but we'll accept a relative murder. Soren gets a shot in, saves her. They
Yep.
escape on a bike, and probably head off to the Mystics. I unfortunately think you're right in that Quan Ha is probably going to tie into Master Chief, and I'm gonna call it. This is my shot in the dark right now.
Okay.
The Mystics are going to tell her that her family also has the power that Master Chief does to activate the relics, and then the reason he was so against the UNSC was because he didn't want to work with them to activate the weapon, the Halo ring.
I have to throw something out. You just made my brain explode for a second, right? And I have this idea. There's 2 keystones and there's one device in which those keystones connect, right?
As far as we know in this show, yeah.
We know Master Chief activates one keystone. We know that woman probably activates the other keystone. Who actually activates the weapon?
They better.
You think this might be 3 people that have to be involved here in order for this Halo ring to activate?
It better not. It better not. In my mind, they can all activate all of them.
Okay. All right.
Like I don't know if it's like one can do, like Master Chief can do the little one, and then who can do because I feel like Master Chief's gonna activate the second one in this, but like we didn't see it yet, so maybe he'll touch it and nothing will happen. I doubt that's the answer because I feel like the flashbacks indicated to us he touched it and then saw the Halo ring.
Yep.
So in my mind, he can activate it, but I feel like and then it's gonna be like some sort of like, oh well, if we can't find Master Chief, we're gonna go find this girl and get her.
That
and
would
then,
be
like,
so boring and cheap.
Master Chief's got to come protect her, some stupid nonsense like
I
this.
hope that's not the case.
That's just where I see it going, because like that kind of, if the Mystics were like, you're going to bring apart about the destruction of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's why he didn't want like the UNSC and everyone to come for him. That's the only thing I can think of. I guarantee you that whatever I just said is probably better than what they're actually going to write, because that's what this show's been doing. But that remains to be seen.
I just hope they have a better idea for Kwan Ha. I hope they can kind of save it, because right now it's just I'm in limbo with her, because I'm like, the whole Mystics storyline could really reinvigorate her storyline and her character, or it could just sentence it to death.
Mm-hmm.
And I think your scenario of her just being the backup plan to activate the keystones, that's a death sentence for the character for me. And the storyline, that's cheap, it's boring, it's like, I don't care. And it's pretty much the rest of the season is going to go exactly how you would picture it, right? But if we make her an integral part of the main storyline, then I think we can get her story back on track and we can get her character back to being interesting. So I'm hoping they actually use her effectively in this Mystic storyline.
There are 6 more episodes in this season, so we'll see what happens. My brother fell asleep watching this one, and he said he's going to give it one more episode, and then he might bounce off because it's getting too much for him. I said I'm sticking with it because content, but yeah, this episode certainly rubbed me the wrong way, and I was like, I don't even know what we're doing here anymore.
Okay, all right. We'll have to wait and see.
I don't watch the trailers, so I always go into these blind, which I like.
Oh, I don't either. Yeah,
okay. That's why I like to watch TV shows. I don't like the trail. I don't want to know what's going to happen next week.
Right. Yeah.
So
I want to be, teased a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we will see. Anything else before we wrap it up, Ethan?
No, those were the only interesting parts of the show.
Interesting. We'll use that word. They were parts of the show. They were the parts of the show.
Yeah.
Well, remember, guys, if you like this, please support us in any way, like, ratings. We do appreciate it. But Ethan, where can they find you?
They can find me at WhiteCedar1 on Twitter and Gravy3448 on Xbox.
And you can follow me at the Muffin Mon. It's a 1-7-9 and 0-7A. Follow us at Project X Talk to stay up to date with all our latest videos. And until next week for episode 5 of Halo, we will see you